All right, so we have a 2012 Volkswagen CC. It's leaking coolant, and it's actually the union connecting the oil cooler to the water pump, the little plastic union piece there. Some of these cars, it's easier to take the intake manifold off. It gives you a lot more room, especially since this water pump was just replaced, and I guess the guy that did it just messed it up. Probably didn't take the intake manifold off, rolled that O-ring over. That's why the coolant is leaking. So we're gonna want to take the airbox stuff out, engine cover off, possibly the alternator. I kind of like to do it just because it makes it easier when you're actually putting this thing back together. And it's only, removing the belt, unplugging the battery, disconnecting the battery, and taking the alternator out of the way. We have the air inlet pipes. I like to take the throttle body itself off. Gives you more room when you're working down in there. With some of the electrical connectors, this one actually has a lot of the bolts off the brackets holding the sensors and connectors off, and then just everything that kind of allows us to get down into the down underneath the intake manifold. So we'll go ahead and start just removing a lot of these pieces that are in the way. All right, so let's go ahead and take off this piece. Sorry, T25. Remove this little air inlet. All right, take this clip off. We'll take that clamp off. So I like to use these special clamp pliers. Come in here. Slide it over. Slide that. And then we have this coolant pipe. I'm going to remove this coolant hose right here. Okay, get it out of the way because we need to remove this whole air box. And then we're going to lift. And just lift the whole air box up out of the way. So see this piece right here? This is actually supposed to be bolted to these two pegs right here. So this piece isn't where it needs to be, and then also this solenoid as well. I am going to take the alternator out, loosen the tensioner, which is right here, that guy right there. Take the belt off, or disconnect the battery, disconnect the alternator, pull that up out of the way, remove this boot here and the throttle body. We might be able to get away with just doing that for this, but if we need to, we will remove the actual charge pipe right here. That way it's going to give us access to everything that's under the intake manifold, and that's the goal here. We'll take some of these lines off just to help aid in removal of some of these parts. But yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and take all this stuff off. I'm not going to record every single thing, but basically alternator, throttle body, boot, and then like vacuum lines and electrical connectors. All right, so far we got the alternator removed. This is how it sits in the car. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts. It takes a 13mm socket, and then on the inside of the motor, kind of where the throttle body's at, we have a 13mm here for the positive cable, and then a connector that goes right here. And then the throttle body, same story for this. We have a connector right here, and then has 4 T30s that go into that. And then I took the boot off. This takes a 7mm socket. So right now we have that going on. So we have, let's see, this off. It's gonna be hard to see this, but okay. So right there, see that tiny little opening right there? That's where the coolant is leaking from. So this section here, it's kind of hard to see to be honest, but this whole section here, like this piece, that's the water pump slash like thermostat assembly. So we're trying to get to that. That's the goal, is to remove that assembly and then replace the O-rings for that little union over there. That is where the active coolant leak is coming from. So in order to do so, we're just gonna have to, I mean, it looks like they broke the connectors. But yeah, so some vacuum lines we're gonna take out, electrical connectors, coolant hoses we're gonna remove. Yeah, that's one of the things that sucks about working on somebody else's mistake, is they kind of destroy what was original. So it's also taking your time to clean up their mess as well. So yeah, we're just slowly get into it. Just basically remove everything to be able to get as much access as we can to there. All right, so we have all the connectors removed. I'll pull it to the side. There's not too many of them, just these two big ones here, this green one. There's one for the fuel pressure sensor, which is right in here. So now I'm going to take off this. There's a that T30 right there, that bolt. We're going to take that off, and then we're going to take off this hose clamp here, so we can take off this pipe right here. And that pipe goes down, goes into here, and also goes into the face of the water pump right here. So we're going to take that whole pipe off, and then after that we have access to this pipe here, and then the one underneath of that. So there's these two big pipes right here. And then yeah, once we remove them, we have complete access to the water pump. And then we'll get to that once we take these coolant pipes off. So yeah, go ahead, just take your time with them. Be super gentle, careful with them. You definitely don't want to break those. All right, so we have all the coolant hoses removed. So this one here and that one here, and then the plastic pipe that came across here. And then next we have to remove this belt right here, this belt right here. So there was a protective cap that covers that. So there's a bolt here and there. It just bolts right here, and then the other one coming from the side. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts for the water pump. Okay, so this is the union piece. This goes between, so here's the water pump. So this goes between the water pump right here, right in here, and then this goes to the oil cooler. So this is what was leaking. So I already found some O-rings for it. So I put the right size O-rings in there, some new ones. The ones that were in there were old and dry and just kind of flattened out. Before you install the water pump, just take out the coolant temp sensor, because this is probably the hardest part of the whole job, because the temp sensor is stuck out, and you want this surface as flat as possible. Because the problem is you're trying to install this into the oil cooler, but keeping it square, perpendicular to the bore of the water pump. And then there's two dowels that stick out on the block itself. So you're going to be fighting keeping this perpendicular, and then fighting the dowels to get everything lined up. So just take your time. It is a little challenging at first. That opening right there is what the union goes into, right there. So what I did to remove the belt right here, this belt, so you want to get a 24 millimeter socket, put it on the crank hub, put this on the crank hub, rotate the engine clockwise, and then get a pry bar flathead and just push this to the side as you rotate it, and then it'll come off. Install the water pump back onto the block, and just take your time. This is probably the most important part of the whole entire job. All right, so the water pump's in. Take your time, don't rush it. The last thing you want to do is put this all back together and realize that the O-ring is still leaking. Take your time. You kind of have to push towards the oil cooler, but also towards the block. and just make sure that coupling is just squared up and straight on for the cooler and the water pump sides. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the belt back on, the cover, all the bolts, everything, and just kind of, yeah, reversal of removal. It's easy part now. The hardest part was just putting that pump back on, make sure the O-rings don't get damaged or anything like that.